The Carolina Panthers. In recent years, the Carolina Panthers haven't had much success. The most notable recent success the Carolina Panthers had was Cam Newton's 2015 Super Bowl run. But in the 7 seasons since then, the Panthers have had only one winning record, leading them to a first-round exit of the playoffs. And that 7-year span also consisted of 3 straight 5-win seasons just before last season's 7-10 record. But with all the past years of recent struggle, in the past season and off-season, the Carolina Panthers have made a ton of moves and the future is looking extremely bright. And I'm here to tell you why I believe this Panthers team will make the playoffs with a wildcard round seeding. To start off, let's recap some of the big moves the Carolina Panthers have made in the past year. The first big one was Panthers owner Tepper firing Matt Rule after an embarrassing Week 5 loss against the 49ers. Now, coach being fired mid-season isn't something you always see, but it's happened 3 times in the past 4 years that Tepper has been the owner of the Panthers. Kind of surprising. But I do agree that Matt Rule had to go. His record was 11-27 as the coach for the Panthers. He didn't really seem like he had things figured out, and the big thing was he was never able to solve the quarterback problem. And him being fired mid-season, if Tepper's mind was already made up, he's like, I'm going to fire this guy at the end of the season, why not just do it in the middle of the season and try to work something else out and go from there instead of wasting the regular season just waiting for this man to get fired. And for Matt Rule, he got fired Monday morning, so you start the season 1-4, you're like, all right, I gotta get things turned around here. And you wake up Monday, you go to the building, and just before the team meeting, you get fired. That would suck. But he probably knew it was coming. I bet you the whole 49ers game, he was just praying the Panthers could pull out a win so he wouldn't lose his job yet. Then the very next week, the Panthers kind of hit rock bottom. Steve Wilks steps in as head coach and has to kick out Robbie Anderson. And then the very next morning, he's traded. Being a Panthers fan during this time, I couldn't imagine. He must have just felt hopeless. Your head coach gets fired, then the coach that steps in has to kick out one of your wide receivers because he's arguing with a wide receiver coach because he's not getting passes, but what does it even matter? You guys are still losing, and just it was looking pretty bleak for the Panthers. But since then, since they fired their head coach and Robbie Anderson got kicked out and traded, everything's been looking pretty good. And the upside swing for the Panthers started shortly after they traded away Robbie Anderson, as then they traded away Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers for a 2023 second, third, and fourth round pick and a 2024 fourth round pick. An amazing move by the Panthers. We all know Christian McCaffrey is one of the most amazing running backs of all time, but just injury after injury during 2022 and 2021, it just wasn't working out. He's expensive, he's injury prone, he'd been there for 5 seasons, the Panthers weren't really getting anywhere, and they needed to rebuild, so trading away an expensive player for a bunch of picks while also getting rid of one of your injury prone players, it was a great move. Panthers then went on to kind of have a pretty solid end of the season, finishing 5-3 throughout their last 8 games. They should have had another win in there, but the refs sold against the Falcons. Apparently you can't take off your helmet after catching a game-winning touchdown when you're out of bounds. Then shortly after the season wrapped up, the Panthers found their head coach as they hired Frank Reich, who I think is going to be good and lead the Panthers hopefully to some playoff success. The main problem with Matt Rule was he never solidified and fixed the Panthers' quarterback issues, so who better to bring in than Frank Reich, who played quarterback in the NFL for over 10 years, has coached in many different areas including wide receiver coach, offensive coordinator, and I think he'll bring this team together. And looking at the 2023 draft, everyone knew the Panthers needed a quarterback. They knew that the Panthers were probably going to draft a new quarterback, so who better than to develop a new quarterback than Frank Reich? Skipping to early March, the Panthers kept the heat up as they traded for the number 1 overall pick with the Bears and sent away their 9th overall pick, DJ Moore, and a few other picks. And to me, it was pretty obvious the Panthers were going to draft Bryce Young, and that's who they ended up taking. Number 1 overall, their new quarterback, Bryce Young. One of the reasons the Panthers probably took Bryce Young over a different quarterback like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis and maybe even CJ Stroud is that Bryce Young had the least amount of risk associated with him. We saw him play at an amazing level in college. And Anthony Richardson is more of a prospect. I think the only reason he went so high is because Josh Allen panned out so well. Anthony Richardson's extremely athletic. He had an amazing combine, but his college career wasn't all that to talk about. And Bryce Young was from Alabama, and we know Nick Saban has an amazing coaching staff, and players from Alabama usually pan out to just be amazing. Even though I said Bryce Young had the least amount of risk associated with him, there still are a lot of doubters. And the biggest reason, pretty much the only reason I see people doubt Bryce Young is because of his size. He's only 5'10". I believe the only other quarterback that small to play quarterback in the NFL in recent history is Kyler Murray. Now, not to say Kyler Murray's bad, but it's very uncommon for a quarterback to play that's that small. And I believe there's really only two sides of it. You either think Bryce Young is going to be amazing, or you think he's going to be terrible, and the only reason you think he's going to be terrible is because of his height. I'm on the side of believers that think Bryce Young will develop into an amazing quarterback and maybe even have an amazing rookie season. His height's going to play a factor into Carolina's offense, but it's not going to be a game changer. Watching Bryce Young at Alabama, the way he moves around the backfield, the arm he has on him, his accuracy, to me, the way he played in college will translate great into the NFL. The Panthers have established their quarterback and hopefully the future of their offense. And with that, they brought in a ton of new weapons. The first thing the Panthers did is they revamped their running back room. After clearing out their backfield, they signed Miles Sanders from Philly to a 4-year, $25 million deal, and he just had his best season last year. Now, the Eagles' stellar offensive line probably did make Sanders look a little better than he actually is, but that's not to take away from the fact that he's still a solid running back. He's great out of the backfield, so another weapon for Bryce Young. He has incredible vision. He's always finding the hole. Definitely an upgrade for the Panthers. The next thing the Panthers did is after they got rid of DJ Moore, they needed another deep threat, so they took on DJ Chark for a 1-year, $5 million deal. If you watched any of the Lions games last year, you'll know that DJ Chark was an insane weapon for Detroit. Great route running, incredible speed, and hopefully he'll have a ton of connections with Bryce Young. The Panthers really did just swap out their DJs. They went from DJ Moore to DJ Chark. I don't think DJ Chark is DJ Moore. They're totally different wide receivers. But DJ Moore, we knew he had the deep threat, and DJ Chark also has that deep threat, and I think that's the main reason the Panthers picked him up. And then, for the biggest move the Panthers have made recently was they signed Adam Theilen to a 3-year, $25 million deal. A huge move for the Panthers, and another insane weapon for Bryce Young. Theilen was with the Vikings for 9 seasons, and he said he was a little upset that the Vikings didn't re-sign him. He said they just had different plans for me. It's understandable, it must suck, but I'm excited to watch him in Carolina because he's going to be a game changer. He's going to bring in that veteran experience because he's been in the league for 9 years. He's an incredible route runner, an incredible wide receiver, and another weapon for Bryce Young. Bryce Young now has DJ Chark and Adam Theilen, and that's not even all of Bryce Young's weapons, as the Panthers also signed tight end Hayden Hurst to a 3-year, $22 million deal. Hurst was incredible for Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow has great hands, great route running, great pass blocker, and another weapon for Bryce Young. This man is now loaded up with people to throw to. And defensively, the Panthers also made another game-changing move as they signed safety Vonn Bell to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. A veteran safety who's going to be a ball hawk for this Panthers defense. Additionally, on the defense for Carolina, they also have Brian Burns, defensive end, coming off his best season as he had 12.5 sacks recorded last year. And looking at the Panthers draft class, obviously Bryce Young, they picked up another solid wide receiver, an edge rusher, an offensive lineman, and a safety. All around seems like a pretty good draft. Not really anything huge because they took Bryce Young and that was really their highlight of the draft. But overall, it looks to be a solid pickup of players. And now for the biggest reason on why I think the Panthers will make the wild card run of the playoffs next season, or maybe even win the division, is because last season the Panthers finished 17th overall in points per game defensively allowed. 17th overall? That's a pretty good defense, and even that number was a little skewed as they gave up a ton of points in a few games, like the one against the Cincinnati Bengals where Joe Mixon had 5 touchdowns. You take that out, they're probably even up a little higher. The rushing and passing defense was also decent last season. Rushing yards per game allowed, they ranked 18th, and in pass yards per game allowed, they ranked 22nd. But with this already decent defense, with these new additions, Vonn Bell, veteran safety, Brian Burns coming off his best season yet, edge rusher DJ Johnson from Oregon, with the new coaching staff, these new additions to their already pretty decent defense, the Panthers defense next season should be a little bit above average. And I don't even think the Panthers defense is going to have to play at the best they can to win games because their offense is going to be so solid with Bryce Young, Adam Theilen, Hayden Hurst, DJ Chark, Miles Sanders, and hopefully all these players will be able to come together, as the Panthers offensive line right now is ranked 15th in the league and they just picked up another lineman in the draft. Looking at the Panthers' upcoming schedule and their division, first off, the Buccaneers. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be doing anything next season. Without Tom Brady, the Buccaneers are going to be irrelevant, and I think they're just going to crumble. Next up, the Saints. I'm kind of on the edge for the Saints. I wanted to say that they're not going to be good, but with Derek Carr, I think they do have a chance, and they could change my mind and surprise me. I just don't have a lot of faith in the Saints winning the division or making it to the playoffs, but they have a chance still. I'm kind of just circling around this. It's too early to count them out. I just don't have a lot of faith in the Saints and Derek Carr. Personally, to me, I think the two teams fighting for first place would be the Panthers and the Falcons. Now, that may surprise some people. The Falcons weren't amazing last season, but now I feel like the Falcons offense is going to be pretty solid. They don't really have a defense, but their offense, it's just kind of the way the Falcons go. They just have a super strong offense, and hopefully their offense is strong enough to where their defense just doesn't matter. You know, I kind of take back the thing I said about the Saints. They actually might be pretty good with their defense. I personally just don't have a lot of faith in them for some reason. Just like a gut feeling. I don't think the Saints are going to be as dominant as people think they will with Derek Carr. Anyway, with the new coaching staff, the Panthers' new additions, Bryce Young, looking at their division and looking at their schedule, a lot of these games are winnable. They're going to be close games. I'm not going to say the Panthers are going to 100% win majority of these games, but they have potential to finish the season 9-8, maybe make the playoffs. Maybe they go 10-7 and win the division. I don't know how good the division will be because last year the Bucs made the playoffs with a losing record. In the end, I'm going to go on record here and say the Panthers make the wild card round of the playoffs and finish the season at least 9-8. And even if the Panthers don't make the playoffs this season, it's nothing to be down about because there's not really any expectations. I don't think people really expect the Panthers to win a ton of games. They're going to be figuring things out, and there should be a ton to look forward to in the upcoming seasons. Hopefully they can build something really amazing here.